My name's David Brooks. I'm from a company called 247 Time. We specialise in managing the temporary staffing agencies that are working throughout the NHS. And basically what our cloud-based system delivers for the NHS is it holds the agencies to the promised price and terms that the agencies have agreed. But what it also does is removes all the agencies' hidden profit pots. And what I mean by that is a lot of the agencies that are supplying the NHS are charging employers' national insurance from the first pound, when we all know that employers don't pay national insurance until the employee has earned £153. So that means currently in the NHS, every temporary worker supplied into the NHS across the UK is being overcharged to the NHS by the tune of £21.11 a week. We also help on holiday pay. What we find is in the NHS, a lot of the contractors, doctors and now nurses are limited companies. And as limited companies, they're not due holiday pay. On the basis they're limited company contractors. Yet the NHS is being charged 12% of these guys' cost. 12.7%, which in many cases can be over a number of staff, thousands and thousands of pounds. And so basically in the private sector, this has all been dealt with. In the public sector, it hasn't. And what our software does is delivers those savings to the NHS. We've been very, very fortunate last year to be working now with 13 acute trusts. And in 2014, we delivered them over £6 million in savings on their temporary staffing budgets.
That's very interesting. Have you guys done any sort of estimate about how much the NHS is overspending on this? And sort of how does your software work to sort of eliminate those problems?
Well, what I can tell you is, I think the NHS spend on temporary staffing is around about £2 billion. For doctors, because we actually can help them with a VAT element as well, where the NHS cannot claim VAT back on doctors, we're saving them their locum doctor spend around 25%, which is probably around about 40% of the budget. On nursing and other staffing groups, we are delivering a saving of over 12% by getting rid of those agency hidden profit pots. And it's really important to say here, the doctors, the nurses and the staff in the NHS don't get paid a penny less. It's actually the agencies that only are held to the margins that they agreed to work to and not these extra profit pots.
Okay. The trusts and stuff you're working with, do they know that this is a problem?
Well, the trusts we're working with now know because they can see the huge savings. But every trust we're visiting, we have to educate them on these sort of hidden profit pots agents again, because they don't know it. And the challenge being is, I believe, is the frameworks that are set up to ensure that the hospitals are getting the best value are still setting them up with employers' national insurance at 13.8% from the first pound and taking no notice of the huge rise in the limited company contractors that are in the NHS today.
And the use of temporary staff, is that something that's sort of remained level over the past couple of years, or is that increasing with austerity?
No, quite the opposite.
Okay.
It is growing phenomenally. And as we heard in the conference this morning, with 3 million people by 2018 having 3 long-term conditions, that spend in the NHS and that growth and the need for new labour is just going to grow and grow and grow. So it's important that you tackle that now and get those savings in.
Brilliant. And you guys obviously a cloud-based system.
Yeah.
How do you find selling into the NHS being a cloud system? What's the sort of appetite and challenges around that?
Well, what we found initially is when we mentioned G-Cloud, most of the clients that we talked to had got no idea what it is. And still today, we still find probably 50% of the companies we talk to have never heard of G-Cloud, which is disappointing. What I will say is that that's getting better. And what we're finding often, we have to educate them on G-Cloud before we actually educate them on the product that we're selling. The benefit that the NHS get massively by G-Cloud is it allows them to deal with small to medium-sized businesses instead of these huge monsters that are overcharging for every service.
Do you think it's the job of the suppliers, so you guys and everyone else on the G-Cloud, do you think that's your job to do that education?
Well, I think they have no choice. On the basis is that I know G-Cloud, I mean, at the end of the day, G-Cloud is a growing phenomenon. We've been lucky to be with G-Cloud 2, 3, 4, 5, and we were awarded G-Cloud 6 yesterday. But that's still only 3 years old, and in the public sector world, that's still a baby. So, You know, I think at the end of the day, G-Cloud, as it gets more successful, will have further funds to be able to promote itself. But I believe it's up to everybody that's on G-Cloud, not just to expect, because they're on G-Cloud, for work to go and get them. They've got to go and get the work.
Okay, and in the NHS specifically, there's lots of obviously concerns around privacy of data, and I know sort of the G-Cloud has changed its rules about security of information and stuff. Do you find that the NHS is sort of tuned in or sensitive to those problems, or are they overcoming them now with the cloud?
Well, I believe that G-Cloud, in effect, is far safe. By using G-Cloud, they're getting a far safer solution than their current scenarios. We work with now, as I say, 13 acute trusts. We've got another 3 to implement. In virtually every trust we've come across, they're using Internet Explorer 7, which has not been a supported browser since 2006. And they're using it still today, which has got huge security implementation. The benefit with G-Cloud is the high standards that we have to meet just to be able to deliver a cloud-based solution. All our data is encrypted. There's trillions of pounds being moved by cloud-based structures around the world. Amazon Web Services is I mean, Amazon, all those transactions globally are on G-Cloud. You know, at the end of the day, if it wasn't secure, it wouldn't be being used.
What would you like to see from the Cabinet Office and perhaps the G-Cloud team going forward to make your job easier?
Well, I believe that the NHS, and in effect any government or public body, can get massive benefits from the cloud, which a lot of private companies are hugely benefiting across the country. And I think it's really important that if this government truly want to save the money, they could save the money by just simply driving the cloud right through the government infrastructure.
Okay, brilliant. And one more question for you, Dave. Over the next year or two, what do you sort of see as your guys' main opportunities and challenges?
Well, I think we'll constantly have a challenge of education. But I think, you know, the difficulty thing that I find within the NHS is they all work as individual bodies. So there's, you know, over 200 acute trusts in the UK. And what's a real shame is you should be able to speak to the head honcho and go into 200 trusts. But the sales has to be done individually, which slows the savings down dramatically. If we could have some more joined up thinking, which I believe G-Cloud could really deliver for the NHS, I believe that the savings right across the NHS could come very, very quickly.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Dave.
Okay.